This video is about an inseam buttonhole, which you'll see this jacket has. So here's where the seam is in the facing and in the garment. Of course, it has to be both places for a button to slip through. In your binder, you have this page and you have a second page. And these two pages are about how you could cut patterns apart and make seams and have buttonholes. Now you can cut them apart this way, like you see I have the scissors there, or you could cut apart this way and have buttonholes in those seams. But we're going to do a vertical, so let me show you that. This actually elaborates a little bit more in that it shows that seam allowances are needed. But let me not show you just how to do it this way. I think that's a good thing for the explanation. But here you see I've cut out that pattern exactly like that, and you can see that I'm making fabric using that. But take a look there. See how the muslin's a little bit wider than that where that line is, and the facing is a little bit wider than there because seam allowances have been added. You can't just cut patterns apart and sew them back together again without seam allowances. So we'll cut it here, and we'll take some little strips of paper and tape them on there so that that looks like a seam allowance. And so I'm indicating approximately 1/4 inch for a seam allowance with the pink showing there. And then we'll just cut off the length, of course. We need to do the same thing over here. 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's how much pink we'll have showing here. And we're just kind of estimating. If it's not absolutely perfect, we're okay. Like I need a little, take off a sliver there. And let's cut this. And by the way, I also made this slightly shorter than what the pattern, the original pattern showed. Didn't I? Well, maybe I didn't. But if you want to, you can cut that a little bit shorter, or you can keep the same length. Then there's one other thing that you need is a piece that's 2 inches wide and the length that we're going to use for this bodice. So you see here I've got this gold piece of paper, 2 inches wide and just as long as we have here. Now if you wanted to, you could experiment with how you hold these together and just understand that right sides together, this would, wow, the pin doesn't want to go through the tape. But this would be an extension, and a facing gets sewed to that, also 1/4 inch seam. I often work things through with paper and pins, and that shows me if, that's going to work. So I'd go down all the way on that, and I would see that this is the extension for where buttons and buttonholes would be placed, and that my fold line would be halfway between the yellow, like that, and buttonholes would be worked here. Well, that shows a little bit there in the paper, but let's see how that is in fabric. That, of course, will be much easier to see, and that's what you'll be doing for your sample. So now, notice how my muslin piece, that's the extension, was cut like that. And my bodice front that has seam allowances was cut like this. And my facing has seam allowances cut like that. But let's take a look also at what we're creating. On this one, I've got 3 buttonholes. 1, 2, 3, and they're spaced equally. And this is the way that looks. Of course, there's buttonholes to line up with those. So buttonholes straight across from each other. This piece is the garment. This is the extension. You know, whenever you have buttons and buttonholes, you have an overlap and an underlap on your shirt. And then this is the facing. So we're going to have 1/4 inch seam allowances that get sewed together. We're not going to do 3. It'll be easier if we do just a couple, like you see here. And this really just works so well to make something like this. You know, I think it'll be easy if I just tape these down. I've never done it this way quite, but I was thinking about why not. Make sure that my lines are going through all 3 pieces just the same. So I'm going to pencil lines in where I want to sew and where I don't want to sew. I'm going to come down from the top 2 inches, just straight across there, and draw some pencil lines, and this will be on the wrong side. And I'm just going to go straight across because nobody will see that. That'll be on the inside. I'm coming down 1 inch and go straight across. I'm coming down 2 inches for the next line, and 1 inch for the next one. Now I have made an error here. Doesn't matter. I have said this was the right side. It could be. But since I'm doing pencil lines that you don't want to see on the right side, let's change that. Okay, this will be a buttonhole. This will be a buttonhole, buttonhole, and buttonhole. And this is just stitched spaces in between, so that I will be able to put right sides together and see where I'm going to line up. I'm going to just put notches here, so I can see line on top of line there. And let's put a notch, a little clip, a little clip. So I'll know to stop my sewing and start my sewing at each of these locations. Notched. I'm going to go ahead and attach the other piece also. And I'll bet you're thinking, she's going to do continuous stitching. I could stop and start. That might be more straightforward, but let's just see how this works.